So I'm interested in Legos. Let me open the window. So for me, there's more fresh air coming in, but for you, you probably don't realize anything different, except maybe a better performance. One of the reasons I started collecting Legos was because of all the nuanced niche Legos, and I loved them. So the very first Lego set that I bought when I was older, when I say older, in my late 30s, was the Wampa from Star Wars Empire Strikes Back. Because first of all, it's a Wampa and it's a Star Wars, and that's an easy sell for me. But second of all, it's the scene where he chopped off his arm. So you had this Wampa with a removable arm, and then the Wampa came with a little chicken leg, like he was eating some Kentucky Fried Chicken on the way. So that just all made me laugh. And I learned that that was a time in my life where I learned look at that. What's this? I learned to victory roll my hair. No, it was a time in my life where I learned that I was dating a woman. And before then, I'd learned to be very efficient in my life. Like I learned to cut out a lot of toxic people, don't waste a lot of time with stuff. I didn't decorate my house with very much stuff. I didn't decorate for holidays and stuff like that because I realized A, it's stuff I have to store, and B, it's stuff I have to take down afterwards anyways. Stuff I have to dust, stuff I have to collect. So it's very efficient, almost mathematical in my life. And I was happy. I was totally fine. No shit at all. And then I lived with this woman who had tons of, as my mom would say, chingadera, like just tons of like Alice in Wonderland little statues and posters and stuff. And so we moved in together in my apartment, which was once pretty bare, had become just full of Alice in Wonderland. And our house felt like it was full of her signature. That's what it felt like. So I started realizing it's good to fill your home, your I always look at your home as your sanctuary. It's not just like a place to sleep. It's a place where you go to recharge. It's a place where you can be removed from society and recharge and rejuvenate, and you can eat that bad food and watch that dumb show and read that mindless book that you've been wanting to read, or do your art or whatever, because that's the place where you get to recharge. So after we broke up because it didn't work out, I started filling my space with stuff that I loved, like stuff that was nerdy. I wallpapered one whole wall in BBC Sherlock's wallpaper. Like I loved it. And then Legos. Legos have always brought me joy, and especially in their process of having Wampa Legos, and then I just bought tons of Star Wars Legos, like the Death Star Lego. That just brought me joy. First of all, it's very playful, it's very easy on the eye. Putting them together is like a puzzle. It's really mind bending, and it just sparks creativity in my mind. The concept of Legos really, to me, is one of many, but is an icon of creativity. So one of the things I want to share with you is one of my most recent purchases, which I love this concept, and it is a Lego Patronus. Look at that. It's see-through as a Patronus is. It's sparkly. It almost looks delicious. It almost looks like back in the 80s or maybe even 70s, girls used to wear these jelly shoes, and it looks like it's made out of that material. It almost looks like the painting that you put on top of a Mexican would put on top of their ride, and then put a paint of a thunderboard over the top of it. It's that sparkle paint. I love it. And this is supposed to be the icon of someone's best thoughts and things that protects them from depression. Like it's so cheesy. I love it. And you can take off its midsection so a character can actually ride their Patronus. I wish they'd made it with more, this is just one solid chunk. Lego's starting to get these one solid chunks, which I don't like as much. I like where you have to piece them together with kind of generic pieces, because to me that's more creativity. I have to imagine more. I have to problem solve more. Whereas this, I don't have to imagine. There it is, right there. I don't have to problem solve. There it is, right. I'm not mad at it. I just think Lego's doing a lot more solid pieces, and they should do less solid pieces and do more when you see the miniaturization of the X-Wing into a tiny little X-Wing. I look at that, I'm just amazed by how much they get across in these very, very few bricks. So that's the first thing I'm gonna share is my Patronus. I just think it's so funny. It's so cute. It looks delicious, doesn't it? God, I want to eat that. I want to eat that. And the second thing that I do is, which is funny that I'm doing Patronus. I never thought I just put these two ideas together, and now I've realized that maybe there's a psychological reason why I did, a subconscious reason. Is I'm going to read a couple passages from my book. I wrote a book called This Improv Book. I had a wonderful conversation with Monica from Poland. She manages this page, The Art of Yes. She's an improv performer, artist, teacher, all of it. And it just reminded me that, hey, I wrote a book, and I want to talk a little bit about what's inside my book as well, so that maybe people can get an understanding of what's out there. And I've very briefly bookmarked two things that I want to talk about. The first item in here is called well scenes. Okay, what happens when a scene is unanchored? Maybe I should just read it directly. Okay. I'll just read the passage. I didn't read this before I did this, so I'm not quite sure where this leaves off. So I hope it's not like, oh, you need to read it the paragraph before. But here we go. I hope to be the kind of person that makes my scene partner feel like, and you can see a bullet pointed it. A, I'm here on stage with you. We are together in this. B, I'm going to honor whatever you do. And C, but even if you have nothing, we got this. Like that's like now that when I read that in a book, that's totally how my goal. My goal is I want to be. I'm here with you. We're in the moment. The audience is there, and we're acknowledging the audience, which are our friends as well, and our people off stage and what we talk. I'm here in this moment with you. We're together in this. Like I do want to acknowledge that. And I'm going to honor whatever you say. So that's why I come in with nothing. That's why I'll try to be quiet typically at the top of the scene. Because if you got something, if you got an idea, I'm going to honor that. If you just come in and you go, that's going to be the most brilliant thing the scene has ever needed. That's exactly what the show needed right now. So that's what I strive for. And if you have nothing, like if we look at each other for that second, and I can read in your eye, oh, you got nothing either. You got this. We got this. It's fine. So that's what I hope to be as a scene partner. I'll read on. If I had made the move to analyze time of day into a pivot point, I might have pivoted away from my scene partner's idea. And if that's all they have, now that we're lost. Now, what I'm trying to say here is that if you came in with an idea and you go and you're going to take a bite out of an apple, and I go, that onion looks horrible. And your whole idea that you came in, your offer is like, oh, I had this idea because this whole thing's about education. And now the apple's going to be symbolic for the student. I was going to take a bite of the apple, look at you and say, you don't need to buy me an apple. I'm your teacher. And if I immediately come in and I label that as something else, as a joke or as like a curveball or as a whatever, that onion is disgusting. Now I might have pivoted you away from your initial idea, and now you might be stuck in your head. That's why I like to listen at first. At the top, the very top, I'll listen. Even if it may seem like a split second, but I'm trying to pay attention to your body language. And if I think you don't have anything, then I'll start throwing out labels. If I think you have something, I'm going to honor that. I'm going to honor that idea. We will have that moment of silence where we look into each other's. Oh my God, I'm just going to say this. We'll have that moment of silence where we look into each other's eyes, and the sentence that eventually breaks the sentence will start with, well, and now you have a well scene. Meaning that if you had thought this was an apple and you go up and I go, that's an onion, then eventually you're going to go, well, and then I see this all the time in improv, you have a well scene. Now, well scenes are like scenes that are going on. And if you as an improviser, my scene partner had an idea that the plot was going to go this direction, and I intentionally pivot you another direction, and I intentionally throw you off your game. And if you're not very skilled and you feel like now you're going to be stuck in your head going, now what? Now what direction the scene's going to go? Most players kind of go, well, because I had a funny idea. I said something funny and I sacrificed the scene, and now you're like, now you got no scene left, right? So that's what I mean by pivot away from the scene, and now you have a well scene. So I am calm. I've decided to pursue an activity that can go on in silence that I can go back to. If that scene drifts, oh, this is all based on an example. If the scene drifts, the activity can anchor us as players. I can let my scene partners say their intention. I can begin to brush a horse, and after a moment, I'll probably label something. Meaning, when I usually enter a scene, I usually enter with an activity. I usually enter doing something. Like biting an apple is a good one. If I just do this, it could be almost anything. It could be an apple, it could be an orange, it could be whatever it is. But if I come in with an activity, I can still be listening. I can still be in the moment and honoring whatever you have to offer. I could be coming in playing with my ring. I could be coming in playing with my hair, whatever it is. But if I come in with activity, if you don't have anything, I still have something that can anchor me. I still have something that my hair's just Mondays, huh? Another person's like, Mondays. And I'm like, oh, you don't have anything. We always collect apples on Mondays. And now I have like something to anchor the scene, right? Or if I bite an apple and I see you have an idea and you're like, you're supposed to bring cake for the office party, and be like, apples are really delicious for you. And so that's why I typically try to come in with the physical initiation, because I can always come back to it. It anchors the scene, or I can interpret it. It gives me something to interpret to still honor your idea. Whereas if I come in, names are still something that can be like Greg, and it's like, that's still vague enough to where you can still have your idea. But if I come in with like, there's no clowns allowed backstage, then your idea, which might have been about apples and teachers, has just been like pivoted away, and now we both have to like rediscover the scene as players, not as characters. So that's what I mean by anchor. I like that I got into anchors. With my physicality, I've added a bit of information, possibly help define the context, and after giving my scene partner a moment to clarify their intention, I will label my scene partner and now have a character's point of view. Now we can slowly escalate the importance of that avocado tech. That's because this is all based off analysis of a scene where my scene partner comes in and says, I'm downloading an app that will allow me to test when it's the best time to eat an avocado. Okay. So I'm going to skip forward. Let's talk about what the anchor of the scene means. The scenes that need the most help typically get the scenes that get the least help typically get the most. I mean, if you see a scene that's just killing it, everybody wants to jump in. Everybody wants to throw their signature on that scene. Sound effects, walk-ons. I want to be the person in the background. I've actually seen players come and take that game from someone else. They'll tag someone out, do the exact same scene, or they'll come on and continue that game. And all of a sudden, the people that started the game is like, hey, that's horrible. That's totally hijacking someone's scene. But unfortunately, scenes that need the most help don't get the same attention. And when you see a scene on stage, I'll continue reading. It's because everybody wants to jump onto a rising star to be part of the success. I would rather have the whole team in the background of a scene that's failing than the whole team jump in and muddy a scene that's brilliant. My improv pro tip, a brilliant scene does not need help. A scene that feels lost could be helped with something to anchor it. And this is why a lot of times like scenes kind of feel rambling and wandering. If you're doing a long form show, like at the very beginning, it's okay if scenes are wandering. It's okay if they're a little like rambling. You're just discovering the world and every day and every day and every day. This means an element of scene work that the players can come back to when they feel the scene is dipping. And this is why a lot of time you hear this in comedy sports, you hear this in a lot of like short form improv teams, get to the action. Like a lot of times in long form, people come in with an idea. Oh, I'm going to talk about how I'm the teacher. My idea, my concept is I'm a teacher and the student is bribing me with apples. That's an idea. That's not an activity. That's a clever plot twist. That's a clever idea. I'm not saying it's wrong. In improv, there's a gradient of like of moves being stronger and weaker. And I'm not saying that light switch is bad. I'm just saying there's stronger moves you can make. So the concept of like I have this clever idea off of blah 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 blah, and so that's like a plot that I'm going to have to push my scene partner into to get, and hopefully that joke plays off. That's like a premise, right? But if I come in and my anchor is like a physicality. So if so here I have a cup of coffee, but let's say I am drinking a cup of coffee and it's way too hot. This could be my anchor. This is a physicality where I can still honor anything that you bring in a scene. So if I come in, it's really hot. I just got it out of the pot. And then so that's my anchor. Now here's the thing is you could still come in and say, as my student, you could still say anything you want. All I got is this activity. But if you got nothing, then I can, and if you've learned to yes and if you learn to come with nothing, then you realize there's something about this. I don't know what it is. There's something about this coffee. There's either a reason why I'm hesitating or there's a reason why it's super hot. The coffee maker is like this huge, massive coffee maker. I have all the latest tech. Or maybe I actually don't like coffee to begin with and I'm just pausing because I don't like it. But all that kind of stuff we can discover together, right? So an anchor of the scene is something you can constantly come back to. And a lot of times in comedy, sports, and short form, it's about getting to the activity, which is probably what I'm going to say next. Literally, get to the activity, okay? Get to the activity. The characters should have a purpose in the scene. This is why the characters are in the same location at the same time, to do X. In some scenes, it could be shoveling, or in some scenes, it could be gardening. It could be getting ready for a big date. It is the activity or visual action we are watching as an audience. It's easier to establish it and not need it than not have it and establish it when needed. It really comes off as laborious that halfway through the scene, one of the characters says, well, I guess we should get back to, and then you have a well scene. Well, I guess we should get back to work. And that's because the scene probably started off with a lot of clever ideas that I'm trying to get my scene partner. Do you have this idea? Do you have this idea? Okay, now what are we doing together in this room? And then you have dialogue as players, not dialogue as characters. You have dialogue as writers of the scene and not dialogue as characters of the scene, right? So that's why start off with the action. It's better to have the action, not need it, than need the action halfway through the scene. I did a show with people, and I'm going to remain nameless, remain vague, and this really irritated me because I even tried to like, oh, we need to do this again, and then okay. So there's a scene where it started off awesome. There was one person, they were like mining something because it had something to do with the show. They were mining something. They're doing something really active, and the next person came in. And this person, I've worked with this person a couple of times before. They love their ideas. They love their ideas above all else. So this person's doing something, and they can still talk. Hey, Rodrigo, how's the wife doing? Like they can still talk about stuff. Oh, Rodrigo, it's really great to see you. They can still, so the activity, they don't have to talk about the activity. Mining is hard. No, they can still have a relationship. It seems to be. The other person comes in is not mining. So it's not honoring the offer of their scene partner, right? It's not going, I'm going to mine with them or have an opinion about what they're doing, or walks in and is like, oh, we need to do A, B, C, and D. Hey, we need to do A, B, C, and D. And so now they're talking, and the other person's mining, and the second person's still talking, standing up, and now the second person who entered is trying to force the scene into just talking ahead. Why? Why? Start mining. How often do I see people mine? Have an opinion about what's going on in the moment. Don't talk about what's going to happen next. I don't want to hear you write a story. I want to see the story unfold on stage right now. So then what happened was it became sit down, stop mining, sit down. And so I'm like, oh, now you literally told this person to stop doing their idea. They sat down and started talking. I came in as the format. We need you to get back to mining. And so that person who entered said, we're having a discussion, undermining my authority as the mining captain, not getting to the action, and ensuring that all the audience is going to see is two people talking about what will happen in the future. Not only is that boring, or not boring, but it's less exciting to watch, but now you're writing this contract with the audience saying, this is what you're going to see, and I'm directing the rest of my team to make sure this happens. That's not discovery. That's not as collaborative. So that's why, oh gosh, you can tell I'm a little heightened about it. I'll just read a little bit. I had a couple. Okay, I'll read another section. I'll move on to another section. So a lot of time we talk about exploring the scene, right? That's the thing. That's the difference between invention and explore. Okay, invention is that person is coming on stage and they're saying, I have this idea and I want to make sure everyone's on board with my idea because my idea is clever. My idea is good. No, explore the scene. That's not being in the moment. That's not discovery. See the person mining and react to that. Make your scene partner's idea look like it was the most brilliant move to make right then, right? Okay. When I say, I'm now reading from the book. When I say explore, it's different from wander. I'm so glad I read this actually. Exploring has focus and observation to it. Wander is aimless and has a sense of moving from moment to moment without a common thread. Okay. Wandering is, I'll keep on reading. Now, to be clear, I think a long form improv set may have a lot of wandering in the first third of it. I just said that. Okay. But the specific scenes and individuals within it are not really wandering. They are exploring. When you, as collaborative players, begin exploring an idea, you are shaping it more and more by contributing details and placing different pieces of information in different dynamics and context. This element can be a character, a family of characters, a theme or thesis. And I even put in parentheses, yes, that's right, I said thesis, and you thought you were reading this book for fun. A theme in improv. Oh, and then they go into theme. Oh my goodness. Okay, I just went quickly. A theme in an improv set could be love and technology. All the scenes and characters are then looking at anecdotal and absurd ramifications of this concept of love and technology. And therefore, there's not like a flow through narrative. It's like a theme. A thesis in improv could be technologist makes us more emotionally distant, which has an opinion to it. The scenes then act as evidence for or against this thesis, right? The difference between a theme and a thesis. Although it seems dense to pursue a theme or thesis in an improv set, really talented improv teams discover it effortlessly. They don't push the shows into shape. They find the patterns on stage and they find the patterns in on-stage collaboration. That is a brilliant quote. I wrote that. I'm so proud of that. They don't push the show into shape. They find the patterns in on-stage collaboration. They discover the patterns, okay? They see the links and thereby show the audience the commonality between scenes that were not intentionally connected. They were not invented to connect. We just see the commonality between these scenes. In exploration, the players on stage latch on to the intention or idea discovered behind the intention and define it. The method is, this is good stuff. Write this down, okay? The methods, I wrote this. I'm so proud. I'm so happy right now. The methods by which players typically do this are going to sound familiar. A team will do this by DDEC, the deck, okay? Adding detail, first D. Shifting the dynamics, second D. Reacting emotionally, E. Placing the information in different contexts, okay? Add detail. Get to know the information better. Okay, here's how we explore someone. If someone's mining, you add detail. Oh, that true iron ore is going to come out of there. Now we're mining true iron ore. Samantha, you are really hitting not only your quota, but the quota of everybody else here. You're basically running the business. Now we know Samantha, we know it's a business. So that's how we're exploring in one way is by detail. The other one is shift the dynamics, how different types of characters can react to it. So we don't know, we're not exploring by detail yet, but someone's mining. Now one person comes in. As the foreman, I gotta say that I'm gonna give you a raise. That's how one character views what's going on. And now let's shift the dynamic. Someone else comes in, oh, I forgot my shoulder. I've been working all day. Now we know the work is very difficult, right? Shift the dynamics, which is also kind of relationship. How people react emotionally. Someone's minding, someone else comes in and goes, I you found a gold nugget. Now we know more about this because how emotionally people they don't have to say if you found a gold nugget. They just kind of go, and now the other person, the person initiated with mining, goes, there's something amazing about what I'm doing. So now I can have now I'm going to make that idea look brilliant by either A, proud of it, doing it, awesome, or B, oh, I was going to keep it as a surprise, or whatever it is. Like, but now like or C, D, there's so many other options. But now they're making now they've started off mining all they had. They saw the partner's emotional reaction, and now they emotionally react to it as well. That's another way to explore. And you're not wandering because you're still staying focused on this little nugget, this little piece of information. And the last is place the information in different contexts. Okay. Okay. So context is like, okay, this person, now we could take that person that's mining and put them in a different situation. They're in Starbucks and they're making their coffee and they're just like, they're being very exact with how much cinnamon they put in it, right? So you've taken that person and you put in different contexts. I have a little chart here and it says explore the scene, add detail. Remember, DDEC is how people typically explore scenes. Here's another thing. I know, I hate to say this, but I feel the need to throw this caveat. Whenever I express something, I'm not saying I'm the end all be all. I'm not saying there's not other ways to do it, or even better ways to do it, or maybe you might have another element to add to it. Please don't take this as like I'm the end all be all. All I'm trying to say is here's the analysis, here's the behavior and patterns that I've discovered when doing improv, and I hope it helps you find. I hope it helps you. I'm not saying this as like an authority. I'm saying this almost as someone that's trying to help another person, right? Okay, so here we go. Add detail, and I have a little. Here's a little chart I put. Get to know the information better. So if it's mining, we're going to get to know that information better. Shift dynamics. How different types of characters react to that information. How do different kind of characters react to the mining, right? React emotionally. How do people feel about mining? How do people feel about mining that one specific thing? How do people feel about that, whatever it is? And then lastly, place the information in different contexts. How the world reacts to it. So we have our at specifics, how the characters feel about it, and how the world reacts to it, and then how emotionally do we react to it. Now, I know you might say that like dynamics and emotions are the same. That's fair. They're not the same, they're extremely similar. Emotions is a specific way that characters can react to it, whereas dynamics can relate to it differently. I'm going to say how my character relates to the action of mining. Like when I say relate, like I'm the foreman of the mining company, or I am your husband. Why aren't you home, Samantha? Like what I'm saying as a character is my relationship to that. But I say dynamics because a lot of time when we talk about relationship, I think dynamics rules. And you can read this about this in my book, this improv book, because I think dynamics are better because relationship really implies like familial relationship or workplace relationship, right? And there's a lot of things I've learned in improv that are really good relationships, but people typically don't think about. So let's get out of that very boxed in concept of relationship and think about dynamics, right? Because that could be like bully and victim, or it could, and that's not, there's no family, there's no friends, or you could be like uh, PTA, parent teacher association leader, and someone who's not as high up, right? So here's another example of why dynamics I think are better than relationship. This is a long one. So for those of you like improv, this might be good for you. Is dynamics also involve paid positions or family positions and more. So you could have mother and son, right? That's a relationship. And you could be like, I'm done. I want you to be this book and what I do, I want you to be bigger and better than that. Mother and son, I'm done. Bam, you got the relationship. And you know what? That's expositional. That's something you could put on the placard, mother and son. Bam, I get that. That seems not as exciting as, okay, it could be a mother and son where the son is more successful than the mother, and the son is more emotionally grounded than the mother, more emotionally intelligent. Now that's a status thing, right? It's not just a relationship; it's a dynamic within the relationship, right? So you could have equals, peas in a pod. They're not even a peas in a pod. You could have equals, two people in the subway. They're both accountants. I'm an accountant. I'm an accountant in another company. Da, 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 da. There's no thing, but then you can have status within that. You can have how they feel about each other. Like that's why I think dynamics is so much better. This was a long one. I did not expect to go off on this, but if you get a chance, read and buy my book, this improv book. Okay, see you all later. I hope you have a great week. Oh, and I'm also working on. Uh, my wife is. My wife. Oh, my wife just walked in for a second. But another thing is I'm working on some new software, so I hope to unveil it in the next week or so. It's coming along really well. Keep your eyes peeled to the Improv Boost. Happy late Star Wars Day, everybody.